I can help you make an extra $100,000 in the next 10 minutes. Yeah. It involves using your choices to unlock the power of superannuation. Okay, hold on. Just stick with me. Superannuation is much bigger and about retirement. It's about your future and your freedom. And the best part about it, that the decisions that can be setting you up for the future can be made right here, right now. You may think that I'm exaggerating, but I think about this a lot. I'm a financial advisor, a mother of 3, and I'm doing my PhD researching Generation Z's initial experience with superannuation. And my clients have given me some fun titles to kind of pair up with my passion, such as the fairy godmother of superannuation and the goddess of secure futures. I've worked with people for years, and I can see the benefit of how starting early can set someone up for the future. As your fairy godmother of superannuation, I'm going to help you see today how using your choices around superannuation can give you more choices for the future. So maybe let's start. What is superannuation? Superannuation is an essential part of Australia's retirement system. Okay, but you can also think of it as a piggy bank, a really, really large piggy bank, one that holds about $3.9 trillion of Australians' money. And some of that might be your money. The point of superannuation is to give you a future savings, a compulsory savings for the future. So every time you work, your employer puts a percentage of that into this piggy bank. Even if you're under 18, if you work more than 30 hours a week, your employer has to make this contribution into your superannuation fund. And through the course of your lifetime, this becomes one of your biggest sources of wealth. If you make the right choices around your superannuation early on, by the time you get to your 60s, you'll be set up well for your future. And I know, 60s for some of you might feel like a lifetime away. But statistically speaking, most of you are going to get there. And when you do, you'll want choices. Maybe it's the choice to travel. Or maybe it's to be there for your grandkids, the way some of your grandparents may have been there for you. But it doesn't really matter what you want to do, because it's about choice. Planning early, planning now, allows you to have a destination filled with opportunities. Now, some of you might feel superannuation is just too hard to understand. And I'm going to let you in on a secret. Some of your parents probably feel the same way too. But don't worry, your fairy godmother of superannuation is going to impart 3 simple and powerful lessons to help you get ahead with your superannuation journey. The first one is the superpower of time. When you're young, you have a superpower that older generations wish they had. Starting early allows you to unlock the power of compounding, where your investment starts to grow on top of the growth that it's already had in the past. So even starting with a little amount that you're investing early on will result in an investment that grows bigger and faster over time. I've got an example to show you, and we're going to compare 2 scenarios. We're going to call the first one the early start. I'm hoping that's all of you after this session, where you might put $5,000 a year into an investment, like superannuation, and you continue to contribute to that for about 10 years. Okay, so this person's contributed from 18 to 27, and then we're looking at a second scenario starting later at about 28 and contributing $5,000 a year till 65. So in scenario 1, they've contributed a total of about $50,000, and in scenario 2, they've contributed $190,000. We're going to assume that the investment is returning about 7% a year, okay? So that's how much it's growing. By the time you hit 65, even though in scenario 1, they've only been investing for 10 years, they've actually picked the outcome of someone that has been contributing for almost 40 years. This demonstrates the power of starting early. Even if the amounts are little, having it start early gives it a chance to grow over time and maximize the magic of compounding. The second lesson is about tax. I know most of you may not be thinking much about tax right now, but when you start working full-time, you will notice that part of your salary gets taken away by tax. Your investment in the superannuation environment is taxed at a low rate. So when an investment is taxed at a low rate, it has more chance to grow. So less tax, more growth, it's a pretty great deal. The third lesson is the importance of making choices in your superannuation fund. With your superannuation, if you don't make a choice will be made for you. It's one of the best things about our system, and it's one of the worst things about our system, because if you don't make a choice, you'll probably be okay. But the point of today is about how that choice you make can actually put you ahead. If you don't pick your investment option in your super fund, what will happen is that an option will be picked for you, which is called the My Super option. Quite often, this option is a balance option, where there's about 70% in growth assets, such as shares and property, and about 30% in defensive assets, such as bonds and cash. Think about that scenario, is that whether you're 15 or 50, you could end up in the same default option if you don't make a choice. It just doesn't make sense to me that someone that's much further away from retirement would have the same investment option as someone closer to retirement. What we can do is look at someone who's about 21 years of age, starting off with about $6,000 in superannuation, and earning about $60,000 a year in income. To compare a balance-like fund, what we would do is assume a conservative return, or what it's growing by, of 7% a year after fees. We're going to compare that to a growth option, okay, something that has a bit more in growth assets like your shares and property, which is returning about 8% a year after fees. Now, that 1% difference in return might sound really small now, but by the time you reach your 60s, that's going to make you an extra $100,000. Yes, now these investments that have more in growth assets can be more risky. Now, what that means is that the value of the fund goes up and down in the short term. But here's why that's not a problem if you're younger. Given your long investment time frame, you've got the time to ride out those ups and downs so that your funds have the time to grow. So, this is not financial advice. You've heard the disclaimer before, but the general idea is that if you are decades away from being able to access your superannuation, you can afford to take on the risk to be able to get a greater return. Superannuation is really about choice. The choices you make today will set you up for the future. For example, if you take control of how your hard-earned money is invested, you get a say in what that money does for you in the future. You might want something that is easy, low cost, set and forget, where it's growing quietly in the background. Or you could be someone that's wanting to make a difference. In that case, there are superannuation investment options that have ethical investment options, where your money works towards creating a more positive world to live in. Imagine the power of aligning your values to your investment, looking at funds that prioritize renewable energy or affordable housing. This is not just about growing a balance. This is about building the future that you believe in. So, how do you start? Firstly, you want to find out if you've got a superannuation account. If you started working, chances are you do. So log into your MyGov account, check your payslip, find out where your money is going. Right now, if you do not make a choice about your first superannuation account, your employer will choose that fund for you. Now, the fund could be good, it could be average, it doesn't matter because it wasn't your choice. The choice of superannuation is sitting in your hands. So if you look at those resources, you'll be able to figure out whether that's the right fit for you. The next thing you can do is check your investment option. And if you are decades away from retirement, you can afford to take on more risk. So you might want to think of an investment option that is more growth orientated. Superannuation is not just a distant, boring concept. It's about making a few decisions now, having a little bit of effort to do that, and making use of your superpower of time to give you a destination that's filled with options, financial freedom, and financial independence. Remember, being ahead by $100,000 could simply be from making a decision, something that you can actually make today. Thank you.